A multi-million US dollar CDB loan injection for the Barbados Economic Recovery Program. The new M-Money wallet, an easy way for consumers to pay. And a call for more nurses to be trained in areas catering to the island's elderly.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Barbados is getting access to just over $115 million US dollars from the Caribbean Development Bank. Now, most of those funds are coming in the form of a policy-based loan to support the country's economic recovery program. Kent Gerson has the details.
Barbados has received a loan of $75 million US dollars from the Caribbean Development Bank. Now, this key injection at this time confirms the government's earlier assertions that support from the International Monetary Fund would unlock funding from other key agencies for Barbados' economic recovery and transformation plan. The policy-based loan agreement was signed by Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley and CDB President Dr. William Warren Smith. An additional $40.4 million US dollars has been approved by the CDB board for the rehabilitation and expansion of the Grantley Adams International Airport. Ms. Motley says the funding is an expression of confidence by the CDB in Barbados' recovery efforts, following the stamp of approval provided by the International Monetary Fund.
On the 1st of October, the International Monetary Fund Board played the first role of prognosis declarer by indicating that our own Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Plan is a credible plan. Caribbean Development Bank does so today by the provision of this policy-based loan.
Dr. Smith says the loan is part of a wider support program.
This policy-based loan forms part of a broader assistance strategy that focuses on strengthening fiscal sustainability, enhancing the doing business environment in order to strengthen the country's competitiveness and productivity, building resilience to climate change, improving disaster risk management, and last but not least, improving social protection systems and bolstering social development.
Dr. Smith also says since 1970, the CDB has provided more than $480 million US dollars in funding for social and economic development in Barbados. Kent Gerson, CBC News.
Well, as we just heard, government has also secured $40.4 million US dollars from the CDB to rehabilitate and upgrade the Grantley Adams International Airport. Prime Minister Motley says the deal replaces another arrangement which would have cost the country almost twice as much.
I think in asking the CDB to give us this loan, we probably have saved the country almost another $30 million that we were on track to spend. When we came in, this was not the financing that we found for this project. Indeed, the financing that was there would have been almost double in interest costs to the country. And my government stopped it immediately, asked the CDB to review yet again a project that had been paused for some time and almost abandoned.
The Prime Minister thanked the CDB for its speedy and positive response.
That the CDB in less than 4 months could pick it back up, review it, analyze it, and get it to the board is once again another reason for our gratitude. And we thank you on behalf of the people of Barbados. When we talk about boosting capital works, this is the kind of activity that we need. And at the same time, we will ensure that Grantley Adams International Airport will continue to maintain high standards with its respect to its core mandate, which is to allow planes to travel safely into Barbados and to leave safely out of Barbados.
Scan, pay, and go. That's the easy way forward for consumers using the new M-Money wallet. And champion of the smartphone app, Prime Minister Mia Motley was at BIT's Mahogany Court offices for the official launch. No longer do you have to worry about breaking big bills, having exact change, or even being paranoid about commuting with cash on you. The M-Money wallet allows you to send, receive, and store your money virtually. The free app that is topped up with money much like your cell phone data can already be used at over 200 locations on island and is being billed as secure and convenient. It has been created by BIT, and speaking at the official launch this afternoon, Prime Minister Mia Motley embraced the future, emphatically endorsing the app.
I am happy to be that Prime Minister who sits here today, going where no Prime Minister of Barbados has gone before, to admit of the transactional relationships between our people using a digital form of money that makes them safer, that makes business easier, but above all else makes business more affordable and cheaper for the enterprises that use this technology.
BIT CEO Senator Rodham Adams hailed the launch as a landmark day and said users are already loving it.
If you are a merchant and I'm a user, and I don't know, you might sell rotis or something, I come by there, you have a tablet with the merchant version of the app. You key in the amount of the roti I'm buying, it might be $5, probably more than that. Your tablet generates a QR code, which is almost looks like, is everybody familiar with what that looks like? It's just a code that another computer can scan. The user, in this case being me, would hold it up and scan, and the transaction is done.
Well, your phone has a password and the app has one as well. So if you lose your phone, you won't lose your money. M-Money is just one of the many innovative technological ideas that government wants to see being created here in Barbados. Now, Special Advisor to Government, Professor Avinash Prasad, was pleased to announce that the Central Bank and the Financial Services Commission have established a regulatory sandbox which will provide regulatory clarity for businesses and avoid systemic risk, as well as avoiding consumers losing money.
Almost every financial innovation I've seen in a generation of financial innovation can be repackaged so that consumers are protected and that the systemic risk is minimized. So we stand today and we encourage all of our entrepreneurs and our innovators to not look at regulation as the enemy, but look at regulation as a way of adjusting what you're thinking about, that you can try it out in a way that doesn't risk consumers and doesn't risk the system.
M-Money is available on all iOS and Android devices. The number of Barbadians seeking placement in housing estates is in the tens of thousands and growing daily. This from Minister of Housing, Lands and Rural Development, George Payne. He was leading off debate on a resolution to approve the vesting of land at Chancery Lane, Christchurch, to the National Housing Corporation. Mr. Payne says the 20-year program under the previous administration has contributed to the decrease in the available housing unit stock.
There are about 30,000 applications the National Housing has as I speak, and they're continuing daily. You probably get about 10 a day, and if you multiply that by 365, you know the amount of applications you would get in a year. But unfortunately, because of that 20-year program and the strictures, the fact that there were no restrictions on that program, it means that once you qualify, the unit could remain vacant, even though you have other persons waiting for units.
The size of land at Chancery Lane is 35 acres and can potentially be divided into 200 lots. Minister Payne says, should the land be earmarked for housing development, it will be used for that purpose only.
I would hope that we could go back to the existing policy where when land has been acquired for one purpose, it is utilized for that purpose, and it would not be necessary to change the legislation, although because of what transpired under the last administration, it may very well be that out of an abundance of caution we might have to ensure that when land is acquired by the Crown for one purpose, it cannot be utilized for another purpose. And this land will not undergo that type of exploitation which has happened at Lancaster.
Government needs to negotiate with the Anglican Church in Barbados on the issue of acquiring land for housing projects. The suggestion is coming from Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs Cynthia Ford. Ms. Ford, who is also the Member of Parliament for St. Thomas, says the Anglican Church is the largest owner of land after the plantations. She says there is no point in holding on to the land as the money could be invested.
They have massive tracts and acres of land, thousands of acres of land dotted across the whole of Barbados. I am an Anglican, so I should know. And therefore, I am asking the Honourable Minister through you, sir, how negotiations can take place in a private-public partnership to be able to approach the development of some of the land that the Anglican Church has. I know that the one in St. Thomas that runs to the back of the Freedom Village project and goes all the way up and reaches over to Content, that they had a plan before. But perhaps in these harsh economic times, they cannot generate the kind of investors that will help them with it. I want the government to bring them on board and negotiate with them, because people in St. Thomas want housing too. People across Barbados want housing.
Small Business Minister Dwight Sutherland says in addition to working to meet demand for more housing, government will also be concentrating on correcting issues associated with the current stock. Minister Sutherland, who is also the MP for St. George South, highlighted some of those faced by Ellerton housing area residents.
We still have houses in Ellerton housing area with asbestos roofing. I too have discussed this with the member for St. Andrew and also the honourable member for St. John, both honourable members. And I have prepared my list. I have done my walkthrough, and we have prepared our list, and we have passed that list on to the minister. We have a number of persons without their title deeds.
Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley believes that a comprehensive reform of state-owned agencies is necessary. He says originally the SOEs were intended to devolve certain administrative responsibilities from central government. Bishop Atherley says now they no longer serve their intended purpose.
These agencies are used in such fashion as that significant assets belonging or held in the name of the people of Barbados are removed from the immediate oversight of central government and then are allocated or assigned to these state agencies for the purpose of shifting them away from the immediate oversight of central government and the controls that come therewith, and from the immediate scrutiny of the public.
Bishop Atherley says the reform is necessary to prevent the misuse of assets.
There's an imperative attaching to the reform process that must set in place systems and revise procedures and principles, regulations that will curtail that undesirable behavior, where when Parliament has acted in the best interest of the people of Barbados and assets devolved from the center, decentralized to the management of external but government state-related agencies, that these assets are not misappropriated.
Relief from mosquitoes and unbearable smells is on the way for South Coast residents. This assurance from Minister of Energy and Water Resources Wilfred Abrams. He says the Barbados Water Authority and the Ministry of Health have entered into an agreement to clean key areas of the swamp.
The Ministry of Health has cleaned it before. They're the persons who have experience in it. We have contracted with them, and we have actually managed to effect the cleaning at a fraction of the cost that we were quoted by private contractors. They obviously don't have the manpower and could not clean the eastern section and the western section at the same time. They've just finished cleaning the eastern section. I expect the buffer zone, the cleaning of the buffer zone, to start by next week. They've given me a timeline of 4 to 6 weeks.
Minister Abrams says residents will start to feel relief as soon as the cleaning starts. He was speaking during an update on the South Coast Sewage Project, where he also revealed that the injection wells are currently performing at less than 10% of capacity. He says the BWA is investigating the cause of the reduced function of the wells.
The Barbados Water Authority is working in conjunction with the operator to optimize the efficiency of the wells through the manipulation of the valves and the pumps. So they're trying to balance the flows going into the wells to try to get optimal retention by the wells. Once no longer functioning as one of the main means of disposal, one of the wells will then be cleaned and capped to investigate the potential for further disposal of treated waste and the functioning capabilities.
Barbados is one of only 2 CARICOM territories to pass legislation to address issues of sexual harassment. That's according to Minister of Labor Colin Jordan.
In 1996, CARICOM produced model sexual harassment legislation, you've heard that, to assist member states. To date, only Belize in 1996 and Barbados in 2017 have enacted standalone legislation. It might be also interesting to point out that Belize and Barbados are members of the Caribbean Court of Justice in its appellate jurisdiction.
Minister Jordan was speaking during the launch of Barbados' sexual harassment policy and brochure. The 2 documents were produced through a joint effort between the Ministry of Labor and the Impact Justice Project. Minister Jordan used the occasion to issue a word of warning to employers who still have not met the requirements of the Employee Sexual Harassment Act.
I again make the call to each employer to complete your workplace policy statement without undue delay. You now have the tools in your possession to do that. There's absolutely no excuse for non-compliance with this legal requirement, especially now you have the tools in your hands.
Regional Director of the Impact Justice Project, Professor Velma Newton, says the 5-year project is nearing its end. However, she says they're planning to apply for an extension,
which will allow us to complete the work that we have started and are almost finished, but not quite there yet. So our fingers are crossed. If we do not get the extension, the project ends at the end of March 2019. So at this point of time, we are furiously trying to move things along to where we hope that they can be, so that even if we don't get the extension, there are some things that we would have completed.
The project, which is designed to address deficiencies in the justice system in CARICOM countries, is funded by the Canadian government. Political counsellor with the High Commission of Canada, Agnes Poost, says despite funding from her government, there are still barriers to gender equality in the region.
At a value of 19.2 million Canadian dollars, this project seeks to ensure better access to justice for vulnerable and marginalized people, individuals and governments, and the private sector, integrating gender equality into all activities of the project. Despite widespread regional ratification of existing international and regional human rights treaties, implementation of those commitments on the day-to-day protection and promotion of the human rights of women in the region remains challenging.
The Minister of Health and Wellness wants to see more nurses trained in areas catering to the island's elderly population and the ever-increasing number of people with chronic non-communicable diseases. Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic offered the advice as the Caribbean Nurses Organization met in Barbados for its 31st biennial conference.
I urge you to consider training more nurses in areas such as gerontology, wound care, and diabetes specialist nursing. The training of nurses must therefore be in sync with the epidemiological profile of this country. Nurses do not operate in a vacuum, but as part of a multidisciplinary team and it is important that they use a collaborative approach to care in order to achieve the best healthcare outcomes for their patients and communities.
There continues to be an overwhelming demand to study at the Barbados Community College's Hospitality Institute. Academic tutor Lynette Francis Thornhill says the number of applicants surpasses spaces available.
It has increased quite a bit, especially in the area of culinary arts. That is a high demand area, probably thanks to the Food Network and the Cooking Channel and all of these things that show chefs in a very glamorous light. So there's been a lot of demand. We had approximately 400 applicants for the culinary arts program. Unfortunately, we are only able to accept 60 persons for placement due to limitations of space. This is an institution which has been in operation for 21 years.
She was speaking after 53 students successfully completed training organized by the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association and Virgin Holiday.
We had approximately 60 students participate in 2 half-day workshops at the Hospitality Institute. And basically it was activities surrounding professional development, customer service, and inclusion, really, so that they could cater to a diverse public in terms of the visitors that come here to Barbados.
The Youth Finals Night of this year's National Independence Festival of Creative Arts, or as we know it, NIFCA, is shaping up to be an exciting show. Acting Chief Executive Officer of the National Cultural Foundation, Andrew Wells, says the junior segment of NIFCA has become one of the most popular. She says overall, more than 70% of NIFCA entrants are under the age of 30 and described the primary schools as vital contributors to the showcase.
Not only do teachers traditionally use the experience of planning and preparing their charges to participate in NIFCA, an opportunity to teach them about nationhood and about identity, their participation also affords the NCF and indeed the wider public the opportunity to experience the vast talent of our youth in our schools and the expert coaching by the teachers of the arts in the schools.
Ms. Wells was speaking at the Sagicor Juniors press event at the Blackman and Gollop Primary School, where students gave a sample performance. Sagicor Life Incorporated is partnering with NIFCA for the 6th time this year. Agency manager Adrian King says the company is happy to support national development. He says the Cultural Arts Showcase gives young participants an opportunity to develop their talents.
The NIFCA Junior Final provides a forum to showcase the talent of our youth, but also provides exposure to professional technique, stage presentation, and audience engagement. These skills can prepare them for future pursuits in education and careers in the cultural industries, but also other aspects of life and work.